computer. That is good. That is what we want. Oh, so good to see some familiar faces. All right. You guys just saw what's on my table. I've gotten a little bit farther. I have a nice shiny spot on my head. Oh, well, can't have all the hair and makeup people here all the time. I should though. Really helpful. Jerry just asked if he could fix it for me, which if you want to, Jerry, you can. All right, let's see who's all here. We got, oh wow, got some people. All right. Okay, so hi Tammy. Zoom has an option to set up to make touch-ups on your face. Don't get me started on that. Look, I was in the movie industry for a long time, so I know how bad it can really look. Right now, this isn't horrible. Oh my God, before hair and makeup, you should see what they all really look like. I could tell you stories. I'll have to work on that another time. Do I have anything on my teeth? Nope. All right, I think we're good to start. I am going to start with saying, first of all, thank you to all of you that have been sticking with Foundations and Fundamentals. And there's your core group that we keep seeing every week come on for our 2 o'clock live once a month. And I appreciate you guys kind of working with me. It can't always be the same day because of our filming schedule. But when we find these, you know, couple days off of not having someone here, this is the best way to do it. So if this is all working for all of you, say yes. If it's not, tell me in the chat it's not. And I'm happy to kind of, you know, I know everybody can't make it. I know there's people with jobs. It's just doing the best we can with what we've got here. But I did get started on my piece over there. But the other kind of informative teaching tool I'm going to show you today is I did a commission about 2007, 6 or 7, on an outdoor wall at a restaurant that was a fountain as well, but it was mostly the wall, and then it had one spigot that went down into a small, like shoebox size retention space, and that's where the pump was, and kept pumping the water. And here in Santa Barbara, we have really, really hard water. And maybe this is happening for some of you, or you've heard about this, but I'm going to flip the camera over and show you some pictures I took today. The restaurant is closing after 25 years. I happened to pop in there today and got to see Carlos, the young at the time, probably 25-year-old at the time, that hired me to do this at his family's restaurant. This is in a town called Montecito. It's, maybe you've heard of it. There we have these new neighbors named Harry and Megan, as well as someone named Oprah. And so this is in that town. It was a really cool restaurant. It was a Spanish restaurant. And
Rob Lowe.
Oh yeah, and Rob Lowe. Anyway, there's a funny story that goes along with it, including Ellen DeGeneres, but we'll talk about that later because you guys probably want to see pictures of this. So I'm going to flip the camera and show you some pictures of what can happen when hard water could be involved in some mosaic work, or any tile work for that matter. All right, so hopefully you all can still hear me. And I'm going to turn this iPad on. And so this is, let's get a little closer with the camera. Sorry, there was bad shadows, and then I'm going to lift it up so you don't see that reflection. There we go. Okay, so this is about a 6 foot by maybe 7 foot by 5 foot fountain, or not really a fountain, a wall. Let's just say that. And this, you can't really see, there's gonna be some close-ups, but there's a spigot right here. And then this was where the water basin was, or is, but wasn't used anymore, obviously, as it. And that is because we have really hard water in Santa Barbara. So I used all high fire tile on this, and then I used Fiesta ware. And there's me getting one of my last selfies with it before it's probably gonna be torn down. But I wanted to show you. So here is some Fiesta ware I bought, but and more of it. But here's what I wanted to show you. So you can see in this picture some really, really bad calcification that happened to the tiles. And that's just water splashing on it from Santa Barbara. And there are ways to fix it when you use special chemicals, or they could have put what's called RO water or reverse osmosis water into the fountain, but they didn't. So you have to be really careful if you're going to ever start doing commissions, or you're going to have work that's going to be fountains, bird baths, things like that, showers. Even here in Santa Barbara, we have soft water in our home, but it wouldn't be something that would probably be in a fountain or a bird bath. I have another fountain here in Santa Barbara at someone's home, and they experienced the same thing until they switched to using soft water. So this is just something, if you're not aware of it, you have to be very careful when you're doing these kind of pieces. And this would happen on stained glass. It would happen on any kind of tessera. So just something to be aware of. This was one of the dishes from the restaurant that they gave me to break up. And then I had my own pre-marriage sign right there. And it did lead to a couple of commissions. So if you do get a commission and they'll allow you to put up something with your name, then you should do it. So this is just to give you a little heads up and show you just some cool work. This was also done with cement grout, because it wasn't going to have a lot of water submersion, because only the little bit of water was going to be in this basin area, which then they turned, as you can see, into a little succulent garden. And that's probably the last time we'll see it. They wanted it to be colorful. Like I said, it was a Spanish restaurant, so we used a lot of color, a lot of fun stuff, and then just tried to use a field tile that wasn't too crazy. So that is that story. And while I'm over here, I thought I'd give you guys a little catch up on what I've been working on here. I told you I'd gotten a little bit farther. And what we have here is my found objects piece that I've been working on. But I was given these old, I don't know how old they are, but they're saucers for a planter, but they're from Mexico. And so they're clay, which is part of what I'm dealing with here. But they're really, really beautiful. And the glaze on them is gorgeous. So because this is going to be an interior piece, I'm not as worried, even though this would be, this is not porous, obviously, on this side because of the glaze. But it's, you know, when you do expose clay like this, you could have issues in a high water area. If this is somewhere like Seattle or something like that, and this was to be an exposed exterior piece, you'd have to be really careful with the clay part that is exposed. If it was just the glaze only, then it's not as big a deal. The other thing I'm doing is trying to add in, of course, some of my favorite material, which is the Mexican smalty. I'll always put a tiny bit of gold in, which will just hide. And then I've added, as you can see here, one little complementary color to the kind of tealish aqua color, which is orange. You could do red or orange. So I'm just popping in orange a little bit. And for me, I think I've said before that this piece is going to be called Gravity's a Bitch. And so it's going to start really dense, but then it's going to open up to much more space. So I'm kind of leaning on the Kelly Knickerbocker, you know, Mind the Gap. And I'm also, you know, using one little piece right here that's kind of like what Kelly uses when she does a lot of her crockery work with that bend. You know, it's this part of the dish that goes down and across. And, you know, I don't want to do too much of it because it actually feels like it's one of her signature things that she does. But it was a great way to sort of butt it up against this piece of metal right here. So I don't know if you can see it, but if I turn it on its side, so you can see it's the only one I have like that there. And it probably might be the only one I put in the whole piece like that. But I love this, had a stamp on it. I have no idea what it means, but I just thought it was really cool, added more interest, and it just tucked really beautifully into this piece of metal, which I was really concerned about how that was going to go, because I really didn't want to put a lot of tiny little pieces. So again, I want it to feel kind of heavier down here, and then it's just going to sort of lighten up as it goes up the piece. And I have to say, you guys are motivating me to get some work done. So I have my thin set here, but I think I'm going to pop over to you guys for a little bit and hear what you've been up to. And if there's any questions that you have for me, we can go over that. And then we can pop back over go over some other stuff. So let's turn the camera back over here. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so anybody have a question or something they're working on? Go ahead.
One question, just, I'm assuming you're not grouting the piece.
No, no.
Okay, so there's no problems with the if the stoneware is green, but the white sides show, that's fine?
No, well, if that's a total design style question, and I considered taking some, you can make like a really, really light slurry, just take a little bit of thin set and water and a paintbrush, and I could cover over the clay. But what I kind of like about this clay right now is because of the turquoise color and it being on the warmer orangey side, it's kind of complementary right now, so it's not distracting me. But it is something that I'm thinking in the back of my head. If I don't like it, I may take a paintbrush to the sides, but then it's just going to be a lot of black that goes up against the glaze, and that might be too harsh as well. So it's in there in a design, it's a total design thing. It has nothing to do with the aesthetic. And like I said, this piece is going to hang inside. The other thing I was going to share is that because the top of it is going to be exposed a lot, the substrate, because again, like I said, I'm going to go a lot less tessera as it goes higher. I will not be putting hanging hardware in from the front. I will do the technique that is in our free tutorial about how to install hanging hardware. And I will make a piece that may either be a French cleat or the D-rings. And I will make a really good solid piece of weddy board. And I will take the weddy board piece, I will install the hanging hardware to it, and I will thin set that to this piece. Does that all make sense? And I see the chat's going a little crazy. So hi, can that be cleaned off? Clean off the, did they clean out the pump each year? Oh, you're asking about the calcification. You know what? I have no idea, and I can't keep up with you know, people like that. I made suggestions to them in the beginning, but I think the managers don't care that much, and they sort of, you know, when I talked to the owner today, he had no complaints about it at all, and I think they really love the fact that it was a local artist that made it. They got to be involved in it. They're a very, very well-known local family here in town that have had restaurants here for, as you heard, 25 and 30 years, even for one of their other ones. So he's got one over in our wine country, another restaurant, and he's interested in maybe me doing something at that one. So maybe it'll lead to another Mosaic, because I do have a lot of time to do that right now. So, and can it be cleaned off? No, when it gets to the point that it's at right now, it's actually eaten away at the tile and the glaze, if you can believe that. That's just how bad the calcification is here in Santa Barbara. So it's not just something that in the beginning, it could have been wiped off. And if they'd done DI water or the, in the beginning, they could use acid, muriatic, is that how you say it? Muriatic acid, but not now. It's probably too damaged.
Also EOS.
It's what?
EOS, remember EOS?
Yes, and I have another one you can see on my website called EOS. That was another fountain, and that one got a little damage as well. So that's, yeah, so that's what happens with hard water and calcification, just FYI. Does anybody else have any other questions? And what are you working on? Anybody?
I can talk. I can follow up to my question before. I'm working a little on mixed media. Sounds so fancy, but I'm using like beads and buttons and metal and smalty and whatever I have, and I'm making things out of that. But I'd like to add some of the china plates I have, or crockery that I have, but it's can't be grouted because of all the other stuff that I'm using. So when I'm using the plates, that's what I'm concerned about, the underside, just the sides, the white sides showing and just ruining the look. And I was trying to figure out, I've been using the epoxy sculpt. So I know in your course, you talked about making the thin set higher at a certain point so that you can fit things in. But I was wondering if you had any suggestions for.
Well, epoxy sculpt can do that too. Anything to float your pieces higher. If the china's too low, you can just make a little ball of epoxy sculpt and use it as your adhesive, push it down. But you can always paint the sides of your china. And if you're not using that many pieces, and I wouldn't say paint, I would say use a slurry, use a really, really watered down. If you've taken Cheryl Cohen's succulent course, she has a way of just using a tiny bit of acrylic paint, mostly water, and then she paints the sides of the china, and that just knocks down the white of it enough to make it, you know, look like something else. And so you can pick any color you want in the acrylic paint world and add a lot of water. Just make sure your brush has color on it and try it and test it. Don't do it on a piece that you end up put in your thing. Test,
Right.
test, experiment with everything. But that, or if you're using black thin set and you want, or whatever color thin set, you can do with that too.
Okay.
Does anybody else have a question? Mary.
I have a
Hi, Mary.
question. Hey, we've been gone most of the summer, so I haven't been doing much, but I started working on this.
Oh
a
yeah,
while
we
ago.
saw that.
Yes, I don't know if you can see, but I'm still working on the top. But this, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm gonna do down here underneath. So I just thought I'd throw it out for a suggestion. I didn't really want to repeat this up here. I'm following these lines around, so I just thought I'd throw it out for some ideas because I haven't thought about it yet. So, any thoughts?
Yeah, if it was me, I would go darker on the bottom, maybe just follow your dark blue down, because I think the eye just wants to go to that top part, and that's really what it's about. And I think if you try and repeat the light underneath, you're really gonna like confuse the eye. So really make it about that top part. That's really what the eye wants to look at. And that shelf is always fun to, you know, have something reflective on it if you're gonna put a candle or whatever, you know, you put on the shelf. And then just make that bottom part just kind of a little darker, fall back.
Great. Oh, great. Good. Thank you. Because I haven't really thought about what I'm going to do down there yet because I'm still finishing the top, but I just need to start thinking about what I'm going to do down there. So dark, that was great. Great direction.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you.
I like the idea of dark blue throughout that whole area too. So I agree.
All right.
Glad to hear it.
I like agreement. Thank you.
Anybody else? Martha, Robin?
So,
Who else? Carol, go ahead.
yes, so I'm still trying to get started on my found object thing because I've been out of town and helping some friends. But I'm using, my husband had some property up by Mount Shasta, and he has this amazing basalt lava. It's not light and fluffy like Hawaiian lava. It's extremely heavy. And so I'm breaking off pieces, and I'm using that to create sort of a rock wall and a tide pool. And I'm looking, so I've kind of got that laid out, but I'm going to be using some stained glass mostly for the rest of it. And I'm doing a class on layered stained glass. And I really like those ideas, but I'm not going to do it to that degree. I'm probably be layering bigger pieces on them, especially in the tide pool area. So I don't know. I'm thinking probably I will have to use thin set to attach the rocks for the tide pool.
I would say so too. And if you look at Annabella Weber did a piece that's called, well, it's 2020 in Roman numerals. And it's been around the internet, and I think we've posted it on our Instagram, but it's black. It looks black or very dark gray. And most of the tester she used was basalt. And then it's really cool because she has a couple of these like raised sort of areas, and in those raised areas, if you look from the side of the mosaic, you'll see there's colorful smalty. inside them. So I don't have a way right now to show you guys, but yeah, so check that out. And it's on her website too. You can just go to Annabella Weber. It's WEWER Mosaics, and she's got it on her website there. But and that's always a great study in Andamento as well. She's obviously who teaches our Andamento, one of our Andamento courses here at MAO. But the piece that she made for herself during COVID was that piece. But you're muted, or I can't hear you.
Oops.
Nope, still can't hear you. That's weird. Can you guys hear her?
Heard the oops, didn't hear anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. Never mind.
Heard that.
Keep
No.
going.
Because some of the words, and
You can put it in the chat. All right, well, Carol figures it out. Martha, what are you working on?
Well, actually, I'm working on the September challenge, but I'm also working because I took a Mary Driver's course, so I'm sort of doing that as well, which I'm really liking that one too.
Oh, good.
Liking everything. So, but I also had a question about photography, like if you're photographing what you've done, even for posting on the FNF website.
Yes.
I kind of like, I don't know whether I should be more in sun, more in shade, or no real, or reflective or not reflective. Like
It's a really good question, and we're slowly working on a course here on how to photograph your work. And and so the best thing you can do is always filtered light. It should never be in sunshine. It should always be in filtered light. It should try to be outdoor. Filtered light is always the best. Our cameras can do a lot of things to help us these days with some of the photography, but the best thing you can do is, and it just, that's the other thing that depends a lot on artists that really photograph their work, is if it is a hanging piece, it is better for it to be photographed hanging, if you can, or if on an easel, because when we just start to like take our photos of our stuff overhead, it loses its perception of what it's supposed to be. So again, Annabella and that piece I was just talking about, she had it professionally photographed and it hung on a wall, and her photographer was able to light it and shoot it, which I know we don't have all that access, but if you can think about those things in your space and you do have a wall that's, you know, neutral, or you can crop out most of the wall and you can have, that's not obviously outdoor filtered light, but you can have good controlled lighting. That can also be the best. But if it's something small and it can go on an easel and you can put it outside in filtered light, that is really good too. But I know it's very challenging, but you really don't want it to be reflective unless it's yeah, you can use a lot of apps too, like Roxanne saying Snapseed is really good. I used that for a long time.
okay.
Is the like the mermaid that we've shot it many times, and we've shot it in the middle of the day, we've shot it at dusk, and you can definitely see you get a different experience both times because so much glass and so much of it is iridized. So it just depends, but it will always be that kind of filtered light is going to be better for your photography. But like I said, I will work harder on getting the person that's supposed to be shooting the workshop, the online course. It's my business partner, and he's just been busy with editing a lot of courses.
Okay, great.
But he's an amazing photographer, so he knows what he's doing. I just got to nail him down. Anyway, so that it is coming. It is definitely coming, and it's good he heard that it's requested sooner than later. So anyway, so do you have any other questions?
Not me, thank you.
Okay. Robin?
I was just going to say, it's so interesting to me that you asked that question about the photographs. I am taking a course at Washington University, which is here in St. Louis, and it's on how to draw, because I have, I can do mosaics, but drawing is just well beyond me. So I'm taking a class on that. And the entire first week was devoted to nothing but how to take a picture of your drawing with your phone. And so, and we got graded on it, and, you had to be in focus. And sometimes when you shoot it, the bottom will be warped, and it was very interesting. So,
Do you have any tips?
well, I have an iPhone, and I never noticed this before, but there are some hash marks on there. And so when you're looking at something and trying to focus on it, there's a white hash mark and a yellow hash mark. And when you get them lined up, then theoretically your picture is in balance. So I've used that, and it's not foolproof, which I'm the fool, but it works pretty well, I think. So there's a web page that she sent me to. So if I find it, I'll put it in the chat. But the other thing I've been working on, I don't really have any questions right now. I spent the entire summer doing one of Donna Van Hoosier's pet portraits, because I had done my other one. I have 2 dogs. And so I did one about a year ago, and my stepson's done nothing ever since but bug me to do the other one. So that's what I've been doing, but it's a very slow process. And I have this thing where I tend to cut glass I tend to work with small pieces. There's just something about it that I gravitate towards small pieces. And so it's been very slow, but I'm down to just one tiny section in the background.
Well, I hope you'll post it. And Donna Van Hoosier is famous for small pieces, so you're in good company.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I have to say, I have learned a lot more. Like this one is much better than the first one. I thought the first one turned out really well, but I've done a lot better with the andamento, and I'm really happy with it. So,
oh, that makes me happy. And again, everything can be better the second time. It's practice. You're not going to make a masterpiece the first time. And it's brave to do, something you care about in that sort of, medium as your first one. And so if you're happy with it and only happier with the second one, then it's, Donna's an amazing teacher. She's incredibly talented. She used to be a Hallmark card designer as her career. And then when she got to retire, she obviously took a lot of this talent and was able to transition it into mosaic. And again, if you haven't seen the piece she did for Rachel Sager at the Ruins, which you can do that if you just go to the Ruins, I think it's theruins.com or sagermosaics.com, then it is a big portrait, almost life-size from the waist up of Rachel's dad, who passed away last spring. And it's pretty incredible. It's really unbelievable.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look at that. That sounds, I subscribe to the Ruins on Instagram, and it's endlessly fascinating.
Yeah.
It's so cool what she's done with that.
Yeah, Rachel is a very, very talented. And if you got to see our YouTube live, then you got to hear more about what she's been up to this whole last year. And we'll probably do another one maybe sooner than a year from now to see what she's up to, because there's a lot. She's nonstop, just nonstop there. And people are sending more and more art, and it's just curating into quite, I call it the, living mosaic museum, or mosaic living museum. It's just like breathing as it's being made into a museum. So
yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that anywhere else in the world?
Not like that. I don't think anyone's curated other people's work the way she has. And the mosaic community is a really interesting group because it's very, very small. And you know, it's not hard to build relationships with people in this niche of work. And, you know, lots of people try and do mosaics and, you know, obviously they make a stepping stone and they're like proud of it and that's it. And then there's those of us that are really invested in it because we can't imagine doing anything else. And, you know, it's just, you get to know there's not going to be a bunch of Rachels out there. There's not going to be a bunch of Kelly Knickerbockers. There's just, you know, people that are really kind of just blazing their own trail of what they're creating and being really, really, you know, creative and outside the box of what they're doing, and they're getting recognized for it because there's just not a lot out it. It's not like an oil painter who really has to like do something so different to be, you know, recognized.
Right.
And I don't know if you all saw in New York an artist who is not a mosaic artist, but he's an amazing visual artist named Nick Cave. He just had his design. It was manufactured by a mosaic team in Germany, and he just had it installed. I can't remember what stop it's at, but it is one of the best mosaics I've ever seen in my life. And forget about, you know, proper andamento, forget about it being done in, you know, the proper smalties and all that, but taking stained glass and creating the movement with the colors and everything that he designed. And then, like I said, they manufactured, it is unbelievable. And so yeah, so mosaic is it's the way to create architecturally art that can be large and be long lasting, because murals obviously are going to fade over time. And so there, you know, that there's mosaics that live thousands of years as they're being found more and more underground and stuff like that, and on walls. But it's pretty incredible. The deeper you can dive into mosaics and research and learn and be a part of this community, you know, the more you'll know that it's a really special place to be. So, and then there's people like Roxanne that are getting their business off the ground. So you want to tell us a little bit about your hard work, because it wasn't necessarily breaking Tessera.
Oh gosh, yeah. So I guess I decided to bite the bullet and start with the website first, because I'm on Etsy primarily, and I got my start in stained glass and sort of did things for friends and family, and I had to make a business out of it. And my sister-in-law said, put one of your mirrors on Etsy, so I did, and it sold, and I just about paid the lady to take it because I didn't account for shipping. So I've been trying to figure out how to make this work for about 10 years now, off and on. I have kids who are older now, so it's like the right time for me to really focus on it and just make a go of it. So yeah, I've been posting an MAO for the business side of it because I don't really know where to go for help. So I did set up a Squarespace page. I picked that one. I had Weebly before, but it was a bit cumbersome. You know, they all have like these editors that you can drag and drop and kind of make your web page, but I didn't have as many templates to use, and I just couldn't. I don't know, maybe I had a brain block, but I started on Squarespace and it worked pretty good, and then it was just a matter of content. And like going back to Jerry, I really wish he'd hurry up because I need photos. I still need photos. I find myself, you know, with lighting. I even bought a kit off of Amazon years ago. I bought like the tripod full kit thing, thinking I would set up a little studio in my house to try and get the lighting just right. Well, you know, glass reflects everything. All the light just reflects back at you. And then I do mirrors primarily, and so that mirror glass is in there. And so how do you get rid of that? So I started just doing the frame, but you still get reflections all over the place. So, you know, and I tried Photoshop, I tried all these other editors, and they're just so time consuming. So I'm kind of at an impasse on what like works the fastest. So like Snapseed is my go-to right now for lighting, because I have one place with natural light, but it's shadowed on half. It's like an alcove in my home. And so I can't throw enough light there and make it look natural. And so I take Snapseed and I just kind of like in that one zone, but I have to do that to every photo. And so like when you have 10 photos that you want to do, you're sitting there editing on your phone because Snapseed's not on the laptop, not on the computer. So you're sitting here trying to do each one, and it's just so time consuming. So I wish there was somebody to kind of help us streamline that whole process on a budget. Because, yeah, I mean, I can't hire a photographer to come in and do,
Right.
you
No,
know, but
it should be something that you could do on the fly. You don't have time to wait for a photographer or schedule one. You should be able to, as an artist, I think it's one of those skills. I mean, like, that's why I wanted to kind of, you know, bring you on, that you're taking a lot on. That I had the, you know, luck and privilege of Jerry being a tech guy from the very beginning, when he built my first website, and you know, fixed email problems and stuff like that. But if you don't have that sort of person in your life, and it's you're making the art, you're doing the website, you're doing the accounting, you're wearing all the hats, and there should be a go-to video that could make it easier. And if it isn't Jerry, I have someone else in my back pocket that I could resource. And you're not the first and second people to ask for this course. So it's going to happen, it sounds like, sooner than later. So so stay tuned, seriously, because I want it too. I mean, we have a room full of lights here, and you know, it's still challenging to get stuff shot properly. And I know I don't do it as a well-educated person as well. So, and I've been lucky enough that I haven't had, all of my commissions have been pretty much based on whatever they have seen of my work, and a lot of just word of mouth. So I am not putting it out there to the world as well photographed work that needs to be seen for more work to be, you know, and you do. So I totally get it. And the only other one that might know more than me, and maybe I could connect you to just for the photography part of it, is Angie Heinrich. I'm gonna say it wrong. Zetamari. So she's one of our teachers here. And so that might be someone you could reach out to, or I could connect you guys and just ask her how she does the photography on her mirrors, because she's definitely doing it on a professional level.
I think the difficulty is when you're relatively small time, you don't have a whole lot of products. And like I was saying before, I'm kind of trapped into selling this right now because I need the income, but I'd like to do so many other things. And so I have to market these things, and they can only be done in a certain way, and they're large. You have to have them on the wall. And, you know, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, and something I learned that I wanted to share with the others. I don't know how many other people are trying to get a website up that they might want to have people looking at their works, but Google as a search engine won't even show your work unless you have 2 other social medias. So it needs to verify that you're an actual person and you're legitimate. And so I didn't have Facebook. I had gotten off of Facebook. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have anything so I had this Weebly website up, and I was getting 2 views, you know, it's like nobody could find it. So now that I'm redoing it, SEO is a big part of that. So even like your photographs need to be named with the keyword that you're targeting for. So for me, it's mosaic mirror. So every one of my photographs needs to have the name, you know, what your phone puts in there. That's just a bunch of numbers. You have to redo that into it. So it's a bit overwhelming, but I'm trying to keep my sanity. I think I'm actually going to make something. In fact, I bought some, I've never worked with Smalty, and I bought some. So that's my little present to myself. By golly, I'm going to do something new and fun. And so now I'm working on the thin set. I mean, it's like one little thing at a time. So it's slow, but I'll keep posting. And I'd love to know if anybody else is having similar issues.
We will definitely keep talking about it. Is Peg or Marge want to share anything of what's going on in their mosaic adventures? I don't see pictures, so I don't know. No.
I have a question.
Okay. Oh, there. I leave it on mute because my dogs bark too much. So I just did, Deborah Major is going to do one of your classes coming up.
Yes.
She does the floral things. Well, I
Yes.
just did, I've taken a couple of her classes, and I just, please, I finished a blossom that she had. I saw her in Asheville last month, and I got one of her flower blossoms. So I just finished that. I'm very new, so I'm trying to work through some things the best I can.
Awesome. And Peg, did you want to share anything? Maybe not, maybe not. So I think we've covered everybody.
I have one question.
Yes, yes.
I don't know if you can see this. It's it's a ring made out of Murano glass,
Uh-huh.
and it fell apart on me, and I would love to cut it to use it in a mosaic, but I can't figure out how to cut it. I tried it with the Hammer and Hardy, and I don't know if it's my style. I can't, well, judging from your face, it's not a good thing to do, the hammer.
Which that should have
didn't work.
broken. I mean, if you put it on, if you gently, you know, put it on the Hardy and you very gently hit it with the carbide side of your hammer.
Scattered into.
Well, then have you tried just nippers?
No, I thought it was too thick for nippers. You think that's something?
If you
that
can
would
get
work?
any pair of compound nippers, any
I
kind of
have compound
nippers.
nippers. All right, I'll try the compound nippers. I have breeders. I have compound nippers. I have whatever will work. Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah, and if you can, maybe like Roxanne saying, heat it up, but I don't know how hot, like in hot boiling water or something, if that will soften it a little bit, but you could put it in microwave, anything, just to give it a little
Okay.
bit of a heat up. So so yeah, so the it would be really interesting to see it in some piece, even in the shape it's in right now. It looks like it could be a really cool piece.
Yeah, the underside is the side that I like.
Right, right.
Beautiful blue.
So would you guys be up for if I turned the camera on, and I don't know if you're working on something, but if I worked a little bit more and you watched me do some of the work?
Sure.
And kind of playing with this ondimento that I've got going, which is not, you know, super ondimento, but it's sort of ondimento. It is ondimento. But I'll kind of point out a few things that are happening with this piece. So as you can see here, I'm obviously going up, but because I'm using this piece as my sort of launching, I need to get it to sort of go more this way, because if I go that way, which is, you know, where this whole piece sort of wants to go, then I'm just going to have, you know, these few lines going this way. So right here, there's a lot of just kind of mental planning of what has to go up there. And I don't know, that's the other thing, is I have a bunch of this tessera that is these broken pieces, and they come in kind of funky colors. There's like got a little bit more green, and then there's this more like splotchy color right here. And so finding the right piece, and I don't want a lot of this clay showing. I'm trying to use as little as possible, just so it's sort of subtle. I'm not a huge fan of this Mexican, because it does such jagged breaks with the glaze, but it's so pretty. It sort of lent itself to being part of this found object sort of thing. It's gorgeous color, which I'm a huge fan of. And then I felt like I could mix in some of my Mexican smalty. So just taking some of those things into consideration, and I've been able to use these new wheeled nippers as the nippers because of the clay, that it's just soft enough that it can work. The other thing you always want to think about when you're doing it is, here's like a kind of a big mistake right there, is it's called what we call a T or a cross, and it's too late to really fix it, but you really don't want your lines to cross this way and this way. So pretend you never saw that next time you see this piece. And it started to happen here too. But as we go along, I will do my best to avoid those sorts of things happening, because the idea with the ondimento is they should not line up. They should line up this way, where you're always going to have your end to ends, and you don't want things sticking out too far to make your lines go jagged this way. But this as well, if it in a perfect world, I'd rip, you know, probably this out, take it down to here. In fact, you know what? We're going to do that now, because it's going to bug me a lot, and I didn't do it that long. Yeah. So what I'll do is I like the way it fit in there, so I'm going to take part of it off. And I'm gonna have to move one more piece, you'll see. But this is, if you do find this happens in your work and you do want to fix it, this is sort of a quick fix. And then this piece basically has to come out. So now that this one got loosened, I have to reapply thin set to that one and leave it there. But now what I can do is find a piece that's going to fit into that whole area. And then I won't have all broken that T up. So maybe this will do it. It's getting there. As you can see, not that you guys don't know what it takes to try and film on camera because we have to cut so many times. And that chipped the glaze a little bit, but I kind of like it. And maybe that's part of the whole sort of Knickerbocker thing of doing the finishing school, where she's been faceting the top of her pieces. As you all know, you can take your, well, maybe you all don't know, but you can take your, come on camera. Do it, there it is. You can take your nippers and sort of remove some of the glaze, and then this is what else you can do is start to add color to it. So it's not as, I mean, this is just a really poor example of what Kelly does, but she basically tints it. So her finishing school course is incredible, and it really covers a lot of how to manipulate this. But so now I don't have that line distracting me there anymore. So those kinds of things I think are really important to sort of pay attention to, obviously, and fix as you go along. So here's another one. Like, I really love how this piece sits in here. I think I like that it's got this finished edge on here. I'm not totally sure, but it's too long. It sticks out way too far on this side, and it fits better going this way. I like it better, but I would have to take that off. And so if you can see here, because I don't know what you guys are watching this on, phones or computers. So I'm just gonna nip off that edge, and now the edge, there it is. So it meets side to side. And I think I do like that, keeping the finished edge on there because it just looks more interesting. So I'm using the tinted Latacrete 254, and that's kind of just my go-to. I keep a bag of it dry in my studio so I can just make a small batch of it whenever I'm ready to work. And then I use my Italian spatula to clean up around my pieces, because I'm definitely going to be mosaicing on all the other three sides of this piece, so we can't have chunks. And I'm more of a back butterer mosaic artist. There's others out there that do the pastry bag, or like Kelly does, she just likes to make a line with her spatula and then go on and set her pieces. But I'm in this sort of scenario right now, especially because these pieces are so jagged and unruly, and I haven't processed a ton of material. I would be in big trouble. Here's another thing, is this piece is so much lower than this piece, and I'd be really unhappy with that. So I'd want to float this up so that it met this one at this level. So these came from all different pieces of those pottery bits of, saucers, whatever they're called, the planter saucers. So trying to figure that out. So this is just, you guys, I don't have to tell you what this process is like. You're just kind of fitting and having fun. And then here, this is the Mexican Smalty that I'm kind of digging through. And this is the Ocean Mix from smalty.com. And, I always have that funny story of, look at this piece. It's really pretty on both sides, and you're going to have to just give up one side of the, come on camera, do it. Yeah, there it is. So you see that, and then that, and this side's more muddled. It's really pretty. So that's definitely going to have to go as one of our pieces here. But again, I still have to pay attention to my andamento, and these two are really low to this one, so I'm not really going to leave that there. See, now look, I flipped it over because the shape is better on that side. So you got to go shopping. You got to see what works in all the areas. You can't just lay stuff down to lay stuff down. And you really have to think about editing too. When you're going to make a piece, especially like this, you don't want to use everything you have. Like, I love this. This is, to me, see, that's heaven. That's got that gorgeous stripe in the smalty. It totally fits. It goes into that little thing. It's the right height. It just happens. And you just got to let those things kind of come to you. So I'm going to back butter, get a good little chunk on there. My thin set's getting a little on the dry side. But so those are the things as you're working, you want to think about. And teachers all sort of explain on Demento differently. I'm one that says point to point. So I want my point to points to always touch. And you can always go, you know, I could go with this and go wider, something like that, where now it's point to point on this one. And then if it still is, yeah, and then it goes a little wider. And that's kind of interesting because then it's got a nice little sort of keystone. So it's going to help me curve one way or the other. But I really like that. And I'm not a huge fan of that little bit of clay there. So we're going to straighten that up just a little more. But I do like these nippers. I wasn't sure if I'd like them. Yeah. So that still works there. So I'll lay that one down. And I'll give you guys just a little heads up that after we finish here, I will be shooting our demo in under 20. And I'm very excited to introduce a new epoxy grout. And since we're talking about the commissions that I did in 2007, one being the fountain I just showed you guys, I did another fountain in 2007 at a bar here in Santa Barbara. And it I was one of the first people to ever use the Spectralock epoxy grout from Laticrete. They had just come out with it and they were excited for someone to try it. And so I did, and I loved it. But the thing, I didn't love it. I take that back. It was really hard to work with. I love it now because I've learned how to use it. So you see, that's not really across because it kind of comes down just enough. And we could push this up just a tiny bit so it's even less. So anyway, I've gotten better at using epoxy grout. But what I'm really excited about, Laticrete has come out with a pre-mixed epoxy grout. And I hear it has a shelf life of 3 years, which is incredible. And so that is going to be the demo in under 20 of showing you guys how to use a pre-mixed epoxy grout, which if you're going to use do anything that's going to be exterior, I could not, you know, express enough of how important I think it is to use epoxy grout. So you see how bad that is right there? That is not how we want our pieces to line up. You don't want that to line up. So you can take made it half the size, and now it sits tucked far enough down that whatever my next piece is, probably not going to be that, no. But my next piece will not line up with this piece. So, but this little guy is sticking out too far. So I need to lift this up, take off that little nub so that I'll glue it in once. Yep. So now point to point, and I got a little bit of thin set on here, which is not what I would have intended, but we're going to let it fly right now and see what happens once it's. Yeah, so that tells me, like, based on what Stephanie asked about the sides, or whoever asked about the sides of the tessera, that I am definitely not a fan of making it black. I really do actually like the clay that is sitting down in there. And just before we go, I'll show you how I like to add just a little, very, very, very little touch of bling. Gotta have a little bit of gold in there. So that'll be the one piece of gold that goes there, and then I'll have to figure out what is going to go next to it. All right, so I think I'll leave you guys with that and probably clear all this off so that I can get to shooting the demo in under 20.
Was that the Italian spatula that you used to when you chiseled up the?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one from Mosaico. Yeah, the medium size Italian spatulas from Mosaico are great. And then I also use just a painting palette knife as well. I like it to have a little bit more point at the end sometimes, but either one, I'm pretty versatile with both of them. And then the thin set, like I said, the Laticrete with the black tint in it. You can make a big bag of it and just get to it. It'll last a year in a baggie if you keep it sealed up in a dry place. So,
But it
so
looked so easy for you to, when you chiseled out, it seemed so easy.
Oh, well, let it be known. I just started this piece like an hour before I met you guys.
Oh, all right, okay.
I did say it before they're along, so here we are. And yeah, so it's been a little crazy here. We shot 5 courses in under a month, and we're on a little break right now till Annabella actually comes back to shoot another course. And we have the SAMA virtual event this weekend. So we're trying to squeeze in a few things, and I'm going to finish my small but mighty online course about working on something small. And then, like I said, we will definitely be pursuing more of how to shoot your artwork course based on your feedback. So that's how important your guys' feedback is to us. So we really, really appreciate it. And in the chat, you guys can see Robin posted some tips on how to photograph artwork with an iPhone. So if you guys can grab that link while it's still here, that would be great. And if you haven't had a chance to read the blog I put on up the other day, go check that out. And we'll have a demo in under 20 on by tomorrow. So does anyone have any last thoughts, questions, anything? No? All right. Thank you guys so much for joining for this fun hour, and we'll see you guys next month.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
You got it.